Wonderful. Good morning, everybody. I'm Rebecca Winthrop. I am the director of the Center for Universal Education here at the Brookings Institution. It's my great pleasure to welcome all of you to this wonderful panel that we have. I'm just going to be making a personal introduction and very shortly turning it over to my colleagues. We have here Tom Mann, who is a senior fellow in governance studies with us, and then of course I think needs no introduction to all of you, but of course Julia Gillard, Australia's first Prime Minister, and E.J. Dionne, who's also a
First Prime Minister.
First female Prime
Thank
Minister.
you. You just don't look that old.
She really looks great, doesn't she? First female Prime Minister, yes indeed. And then E.J. Dionne, lest the laughter covered up your intro, E.J., Senior Fellow of Governance Studies. And we are joined, just to note, lots of people in the audience, but just to note two people. Welcome to Ambassador Kim Beazley, who is also the former leader of the Labour Party, and Tanya Plibersek, who is currently the deputy leader of the Labour Party and also the shadow foreign minister. So many welcome to all of you. It's my pleasure to introduce this session, The Life of an Australian Prime Minister, first female Prime Minister. I'm now going to be haunted by that, Julia. A conversation with Julia Gillard on my story. And if you haven't seen her book, it's wonderful. I highly recommend it, and you will get those recommendations also from my colleagues. They'll hold it up, yes, indeed. And I know copies are available afterwards. And Julia, you'll be sticking around for a little bit, won't you? Okay, good. For anybody who wants to talk or perhaps get a book signed, etc. So I'm not going to dive into the subject of the book. I'm going to leave that to the panelists. But I do want to make a personal introduction to Julia Gillard, who I first met a year ago. Can you believe it was only a year ago? She joined us as a distinguished fellow here at Brookings, working primarily on global education issues. And we were very honored to have her. And I thought, well, you know, she probably will be very high level, very conceptual. You know, former heads of state are often sort of very big picture. And indeed, that's true, but how wrong I was in terms of how strong her intellect is. So 3 points. You know, any economist who would like to go toe-to-toe with Julia Gillard on different weights of standard deviations is welcome to do so. You may lose. As a former Minister of Education, myself and our entire team was quickly impressed at how well Julia knew education and how thoughtful she was, how technical she was, and she certainly has been an amazing asset to us in our work. Second point, excellent strategist. We spend lots of time here at Brookings and in our work in particular, briefing global leaders, sharing information on global education, showing data about trends, making policy recommendations. And Julia was one of the quickest studies we ever had. I remember it was 3 days it was probably like 2 college courses condensed into 3 days in terms of getting up to speed on the global education agenda. Here's all the data, here's all the trends. She took a few notes, and I thought, well, I wonder if she's not interested, maybe she's bored. And then on the 3rd day, she had an interview with, I believe, Christine Amanpour, and she was on it. Every single fact, every data point, big picture strategy. So ever since then, we've had incredible high regard, and Julia's been very strategic and helpful in thinking through our work in terms of conducting research and analysis and impacting global policy, helping shape some of our key initiatives. And lastly, on a very personal note, she is incredibly warm and incredibly generous colleague to work with. Of course, at the very beginning, we said, well, how should we, refer to you, Prime Minister Gillard? And she said, please, just call me Julia. And very, in short order, we were talking about the pool in Australia and when we could all come visit, which it's on my, on the list. I'm not sure I can really deduct that as a work expense, but we're working on it. But she's been very warm, very generous with her time, with me personally, but also with every member of my team, talking to our interns, to our research assistants, to our sort of senior executive fellows around the world. And so it's a wonderful pleasure and honor to have her in the Brookings family. And with that, I know that I also wanted to say, not only with us at Brookings, it's a pleasure, but it's also a great pleasure for our global education community, because not too long ago, she joined as the chair of the board of the Global Partnership for Education, ICRC, the CEO of GPE, Alice Albright, in the audience. And we didn't, I didn't get some notes from you beforehand, Alice, but I'm sure she would echo all of these things. And I know the entire global education community is very happy to have you in a leadership role in the sector. So with that, over to you, Julia.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Big thank you to Rebecca and to the colleagues here. It's great to have this opportunity to launch my story here at Brookings, and I do very much value every day that I get to spend here, so thank you very much. I too wanted to acknowledge Kim Beasley and Tanya Plebisek, who are here, and to acknowledge two special friends as well. Rowan, who is here, who is Ian Davidoff's partner. Ian Davidoff was my policy director for much of the time I was Prime Minister, and the achievements in a policy sense in this book are shared by him in a very major way. And I'd also like to acknowledge John Tass Parker here at the front. If you like any of the photos in the book, you probably like them because JTP took them. So thank you for being here. And it's great to have the GPE colleagues here as well, Alice Albright and the team. Thank you for being here. I wanted to start by just reading a few words from my book, my story, and then take the conversation from there. The paragraphs I wanted to read to you are as follows. I first met Barack Obama at the G20 and APEC summits in Korea and Japan respectively in November 2010. At the G20 meeting, he advised me not to set my expectations too high, that big summits like this could lack excitement. I wisecracked. What happened to the audacity of hope? By the time of the Lisbon NATO summit later that year, we had established such a rapport that the banter continued. The key photograph of us shows me looking like I am telling him off as he laughs. At an otherwise very serious occasion, it catches a quick, humorous discussion about our question time. When I explained that I'd flown out after one question time and would fly back into another, President Obama said he envied the opportunity question time gave to explain your agenda to the nation. Are you mad? I said, with accompanying dramatic overacting. Once he understood it happened every day and consisted of 20 questions, 10 from the opposition, mostly directed to me as Prime Minister, he was inclined to agree his statement was a bit mad. So that's diplomacy in this book, my style. Thank you. But on reflection, as I was writing that, I could understand what President Obama was reaching for. And I think what he was reaching for is the opportunity that, unfortunately, leaders, politicians don't get very much, which is the opportunity to talk direct to the community, not mediated through third parties, whether that mediator is a TV news director or someone who edits a newspaper or a journalist or someone who puts a website together. We don't actually have as many opportunities as we would like or need to have a direct conversation. And the delight in having the opportunity to write a book is you can just have that direct conversation and put it out there for people to look at and to judge. So I hope many of you do read the book, and what you will encounter in this book is in some ways not at all an American story, a very Australian story. And that very Australian story starts with me coming from a migrant family, migrating to Australia from Wales when I was 4 years old and ending up being Prime Minister of our nation. A very different system than you have here, and we find that it saves a hell of a lot of time because you don't have to have any of those debates about whether or not President Obama was born in the United States. You can just get to the political arguments about policy and the like. So it's a very Australian story.